Okay, sorry about that. My computer ran out of memory. Too many videos. MacBook Air. We're just getting the good part. This won't be long. I know we're pretty much out of time anyway, so we'll just do another 10 minutes tops. What he's doing now is separating himself from the entirety of the physical world, right? Having thrown into doubt all of my sensory experiences, does that mean that I must doubt my own existence also? Can I separate myself from the physical world? He says, does it follow, again on page 80, that I too do not exist? No. If I convinced myself of something, then I certainly existed. But there is a deceiver of supreme power and cunning who is deliberately and constantly deceiving me. In that case, I too undoubtedly exist, if he is deceiving me. And let him deceive me as much as he can, he will never bring it about that I am nothing, so long as I think that I am something. So even in this most radical example of the evil deceiver, what Descartes hits upon is that at the very least, he exists because he is being deceived. In order for the deceiver to deceive him, there must be something which he is that is being deceived. So my undergrad philosophy professor, when we were reading this, described this as a judo argument. And in judo, you use your opponent's strength and weight against them. It's a judo argument because the stronger, even no matter how strong the argument against certainty of the physical world would be, this most strong argument, the evil deceiver, even that only proves more that I exist somehow, right? I'm being deceived, I'm being fooled, I hold falsehoods, I am wrong about everything. In all of that, nevertheless, it's true that I exist. So, he says, so after considering everything very thoroughly, I must finally conclude that this proposition, I am, I exist, is necessarily true whenever it is put forward by me or conceived in my mind. All right, now, this is the first formulation of Descartes' most important idea. Maybe you've heard this phrase before, right? I think, therefore I am. And that's what Descartes has just proved, and there are many bad interpretations of what I think, therefore I am means. Bill Nye the Science Guy, you know, God love him, had a terrible interpretation of this. I don't mean to pick on him, it's just a good example. And he said, you know, these philosophers, Descartes thinks that unless you're you know, thinking philosophically, unless you're meditating on eternal things, that you don't really exist. You know, maybe that's what Plotinus thinks. Maybe to some extent you could make an Aristotelian argument about that, although not really. It kind of fits with the Plotinus, right? But that is not at all what Descartes is saying here. The idea is not you have to be doing philosophical thinking in order to exist, and if you aren't, you know, thinking about eternal things, then you don't really exist. No, Descartes is saying the only thing I can be certain of is my existence. And the only way I'm certain of my existence is because I have the experience of being a thinking thing that is being deceived, that is being tricked. I think, which is evident in my being deceived, and in thinking, I know that I am. Right? No matter how all-encompassing the illusion, the deception that is perpetrated against me, even if I'm deceived about having a body, I can never be deceived about the fact that I am thinking. I'm thinking because I'm thinking, I wonder if I have a body. I doubt that my knowledge about the external world is real. Maybe I'm being deceived by an evil demon. In all of those cases, it is indubitably true, undeniably true, that I am a thing that is thinking about truth and deception. So I think, therefore I am is a metaphysical proof of existence, not an ethical prescription about how to be, think philosophically. No, this is the foundation for a new philosophy. This is the Archimedean point, the truth that cannot be denied. It is the first moment of certain and indubitable truth. I am, I exist is necessarily true whenever it is put forward by me or conceived in my mind. Now we have to stop, but I want to just pick up a couple more points and we'll finish up the second meditation in the next lecture. I think, therefore I am. I think I am in this first formulation. What I am is not at all clear. I am a thinking thing, but I've yet to prove that I have a body. I've yet to prove that any of my sensory knowledge is certain or reliable. So what the hell am I? I am just a thing that is conscious of information coming at me in the form of thought and sensation. It says on the next page, 81, but I do not yet have a sufficient understanding of what this I is that now necessarily exists. So I must be on my guard against carelessly taking something else to be this I, and so making a mistake in the very item of knowledge that I maintain is the most certain and evident of all. Right? So I don't want to say anything about what I am. I haven't proved anything about myself. I have proved that I exist, but not what I am. This distinction between thatness and whatness. It's a distinction between the factual is a sort of philosophical jargon. As a factical being, I am. My existence is a fact. But what I am, my essence, is entirely unknown. I know nothing about myself. I only know that I am. So what then did I formerly think I was? A man. But what is a man? Shall I say a rational animal? Obviously, an allusion to Aristotle's Zoon, Logon, Eshon, the animal with logos, with right speech. Descartes says no, for then I should have to inquire what an animal is, what rationality is, and in this way one question would lead me down the slope to other harder ones, and I do not now have the time to waste on subtleties of this kind. So, not a rational animal, cannot suddenly say, all right, I exist and that means all of Aristotelian philosophy is correct, and I am precisely the kind of being that Aristotle thought I was. It says, so what else might I be? Well, the first thought to come to mind was that I had a face, hands, arms, and the whole mechanical structure of limbs which can be seen in a corpse, which I call a body. The next thought was that I was nourished, that I moved about, and that I engaged in sense perception and thinking. And these actions I attributed to the soul. But as to the nature of this soul, either I did not think about it, or else I imagined it to be something tenuous, like a wind or fire or ether, which permeated my more solid parts. Having just gone through all that Plotinus, we certainly know the nature of the soul is very dubious and difficult to discern. Descartes is saying, how could I possibly say that I have a soul when all previous theories about what the soul is are so dubious and questionable, and this tiny bit of knowledge that I now have, which is absolute certainty in my own existence, certainly doesn't warrant my saying that I have a soul or even a body or even any kind of mechanical processes. So he says, and this is the last point we'll make here. He says, this surely does not occur without a body, and besides, when asleep, I have appeared to perceive through the senses many things which I have afterwards realized and did not perceive. ... Right? More about the external world being questionable. And then he has thinking. At last I have discovered it. Thought. This alone is inseparable from me. I am. I exist. That is certain. But for how long? For as long as I am thinking. For it could be that I were totally to cease from thinking, I should totally cease to exist. At present, I am not admitting anything except what is necessarily true. I am, then, in the strict sense, only a thing that thinks. That is, I am a mind, or intelligence, or intellect, or reason, words whose meaning I have been ignorant of until now. So, what am I? Not a rational animal, not a soul. I am, based on this one piece of indubitable knowledge, solely a thinking thing, a thing that thinks. I am thinking, and my being is consubstantial with my thinking. I only know I exist when I'm thinking. And when I'm not thinking, I can't know I exist. So very quickly, and we will pick up the second meditation again. This is a major sea change in philosophy. We've seen throughout, right, that for Plato, Aristotle, Plotinus, all of them, right, what I am in essence is a rational being. But that rationality is part of a larger structure and has a role in that larger structure. It is highest, it is our essence, but it is always conceived in conjunction with a body, in conjunction with a soul, an entelechy, a larger character. Descartes says we can have no certain knowledge that we are anything more than pure rationalities removed entirely from any physical circumstances. My essence, that which I am at baseline is just a thinking thing. And insofar as I can be certain of my existence, I can only be certain of myself as a thinking thing, and certain only when I'm thinking. So thinking becomes the foundation for all reality. Any other knowledge that I'm going to be able to have about being is going to derive from this foundational truth that I am a thinking thing, that I exist, and I exist as a thinking thing, because it is, right, because I am thinking that I can know that I exist. My existence itself derives from my own thinking. My being is derivative of my thinking. We'll come back to the second meditation. It's really a shame that we can't have questions here. I strongly encourage you guys to ask questions in discussion, and I'm feeling conflicted about not having the Zoom classes or sticking with them for a little longer. So again, I will strongly encourage you, as many of you as can, to come to those office hours. And this is really interesting. Excuse me. Really interesting material that I really think is better grasped through discussion. So that's it. We went a little long today. My apologies for that. Somehow I go longer in the video. All right. We'll be picking up meditation 2 and looking at meditations 3 and 4 for Monday. I'll get those videos out to you before class again. And as always, write me emails with paper questions and anything else. All right, guys.